And I'll say, I mean, it's going to be hard to win games without John Maakaron. I mean, it's just, the guy is integral to this operation, and we love him so much. He joins us every single Wednesday, and he always, drops knowledge on the fellas, and we get to pick his brain. Hey, the Doc was involved today. You watched some of those player interviews and the coaching interviews? Doc was spitting some questions. Right?
Yeah, he had some good questions today, too.
I would argue some of the better questions.
I think some of the best.
Just kissing his ass because he's waiting in the lobby. Let's bring him in. The one, the only. Check it out, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated for all your Lions stuff in the description. Please welcome host of the Detroit Sports Podcast as well, Mr. John Maakaron. John?
Fellas, thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I had to step up my question game this year. I knew that there's a lot of things that people want to know about, and I always have that in mind that, look, the Detroit Lions, there's so many opportunities that you have to ask questions, and the people want to know certain things. And I just thought that today I did have my A game. So you know what that means? Toast with real American beer.
Yes,
sir. The beer of crunch time and the DOC. That's a good time for everybody, man. It was a good day, and it was a good week to start the season off 1-0. The first time we're talking after a game. What do you got, boys?
You know what? That is true. First time
that beer looks good.
After a game, real American beer, big shout out. Also, again, this interview brought to you guys by BetUS. Doc, I got to pick your brain because this week they're facing a pretty good front seven. Actually, a defense that in the last two matchups, the Lions struggled to run the football a little bit. What do you expect, at least from an offensive perspective, how they execute, especially what they did last year against the Bucs? And Amon-Ra St. Brown was an absolute nightmare against these guys in, I believe, both games, but especially the one in Tampa.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Because, look, Dan Campbell's always going to want to establish the run. You saw this offensive line really step up in overtime. David Montgomery's a beast. But I do think that, this game poses more of an opportunity for the passing game, screen game. Jahmyr Gibbs maybe is the breakout player this week. But, man, when you look at the Detroit Lions, it's so fun to sit back. We all can sit back and smile in that this football team is built in such a way that if they start the game and they're starting to notice that, hey, they can't run the football and Tampa has an edge, they'll make the adjustment and they'll start to pass it and they'll start to do a lot more. Guys, it's crazy. And I've said it multiple times. The Lions won a football game in the regular season without Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta hitting 100 yards combined. In the old days, that game would have been a loss. Matthew Stafford would have hit that third down pass. But nope, now with this new regime and what is going on, I just think that this football team is able to attack in a myriad of ways. And this is the best. I'm anticipating this game probably even more than the Rams game because they're going to improve offensively. And if this defense can just steady the force, keep it between 20 and 23 points, I think the Lions, in a race to 27, I think they're going to have an opportunity to improve greatly and play a football game in which they score more points.
What's going on, guys? It's Jeff Iafrate. I interrupted today's video to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is BetUS. And they are offering the Crunch Time Sports community 150% on your guys' first 3 deposits with promo code YouTube150. Promo code YouTube150. Head to betus.com. They have a ton of lines that you can get in on now. Like this one that I really do like a lot. Aiden Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year. He comes in with the 6th best odds at plus 1,100. I'm going to go ahead and put $100 to win $1,100 and lock it in. There you go. And not just this. There's a ton of other lines, Detroit Lions related, and go check them out only on BetUS. Let's get back to the video.
Hey, Doc, I want to throw it kind of a little bit to the question that you had today at the press conference. A little similar. You had asked about James Houston there and brought that up. I want to ask you about the defensive line just in general, though, too, as well. What are your thoughts on kind of how they looked last week and going into a matchup this week, like an Aiden Hutchinson versus Wirfs and that offensive line they have? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think were you happy from what you saw of the D-line? Or were you kind of a little bit like, hey, they can improve a little bit more? Obviously, they were getting to the quarterback, but not finishing and getting sacks.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought that when you see the pressure numbers and you watch the film, man, Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson with the spin move. Marcus Davenport was all up in Matthew Stafford's grill. that key third down play now has been highlighted all over the internet. That spin move by Aiden that just forced Matthew to just need that extra, force the football out just a little bit sooner than he wanted to. That forced the incompletion to Cooper Kupp. So the defensive line, look, I know everybody wants more sacks, and clearly this defensive line wants to hammer the quarterback and up those sack totals. But really, when you look at it, if you're watching film and you see the number of pressures, basically, when you saw the number of offensive plays the Rams ran, the Detroit Lions were pressuring the quarterback once every 2 snaps. So that is legitimately all that you can ask for, because Matthew Stafford was getting the football out so quick that was the game plan for the Rams. They knew that the Detroit Lions were coming after him. And so the Rams did everything possible to combat that. So for a first game, I thought the Detroit Lions, really the defensive line, gave everybody a lot of reason to be hopeful. Marcus Davenport's a dog. All you got to do is hope that he stays healthy. That, look, he's keeping James Houston on the bench. They want to play a guy that they trust. And I've had a chance now to talk to Marcus Davenport a couple times, and I like his swagger. I like the way he gets down. He tries to evade the questions, but he answers them in a manner in which there's something to work with. So I like Hutchinson and Davenport, that combination. So we all hope they stay healthy. And then Levi Onwuzurike gets a sack. And now you add to this defensive line DJ Reader. It's going to be unbelievable to see what the defensive line can accomplish against Baker Mayfield this week and moving forward.
You just brought up Baker, Doc, and I think this offense in Tampa Bay, it runs through one guy, Mike Evans. And Baker mic'd up last week against the Commanders, even said, like, they're in the red zone. If you're one-on-one with Mike Evans, I'm taking the shot every time. It's cheating. So what do you think Aaron Glenn, the secondary, especially when you look at Carlton Davis, who used to be in Tampa Bay, very familiar with Mike Evans, what do you think they're going to try to do to game plan and scheme stopping Mike Evans?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, right? I think he'll get some opportunities to make some plays, but clearly you bracket him. You have opportunities to give extra attention with Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph to that side of the field. And I just think that you make it so that every yard that Evans earns is tough, and you just limit the explosive. That's all you can do. Mike Evans' size, speed, he's going to be a problem. But I like the strategy that they deployed last week, even though Cooper Kupp got his, like we talked about, between the 20s, there's opportunities for teams against the Lions to move the football. But when it's time to clamp down and not allow touchdowns, then, hey, you handle business. And I just think that Carlton Davis will have his opportunity to do some things. And I think that the Aaron Glenn will have the right opportunities here for Mike Evans. You just got to hope. Look, in any game, you just got to limit the explosives. You can't let Evans just dictate the game. And I think you do that. This might be the game where you really need to, get home and have those opportunities. And if DJ Reader is the force, Aleem McNeil now is in play to be able to pressure Baker Mayfield. So I'm expecting a lot more sacks, and I'm expecting, pressure in that Baker Mayfield will be running for his life, because that's one way that you limit a top player is you force the quarterback into throwing the football sooner rather than later. And maybe, just maybe, you get that one turnover that you need that they'll take advantage of.
Doc, what do you think about, we talked about it earlier. Last time the Lions played the Buccaneers, speaking of pressure, they sent Brian Branch, Iffy as well, used some of those guys on the back end. Can I get at least a little bit of the updates of what you've been hearing? Kirby Joseph out, a little bit of a hamstring injury. What's been going on with Iffy? Like, can you give an update? Davenport as well. Some of the guys that are out with injuries.
Yeah. I think Davenport should be no issues to return to play. Clearly,
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't think Davenport's going to have an issue. I think that when you look at it from the perspective of Kirby Joseph, it's yet to be determined. We'll see Thursday when they get back out there. He started practice, and clearly, something happened on Wednesday. So you got to monitor it. But look, the Lions take care of their players pretty well. And it was a tough fought contest, right? Kirby Joseph handling business. Iffy is a little bit more of a situation in which it's more concerning, because he did practice and then he didn't. And now this week he started the week not practicing. So I think there was a situation in which they tried to test it out and maybe didn't go exactly as planned. So I think the biggest question mark will be Ifeatu Melifonwu. I think Penei Sewell, no doubt, had his ankle rolled up on a little bit, and he'll be okay. Jameson Williams, I think the same. But you look at the Detroit Lions, let's just say there is a little bit of an injury situation. I think that they have enough depth that this week is still okay being at home because the offense is in such a solid position. If you have to, rely on Brandon Joseph per se, along with Brian Branch, they'll be okay. Yeah, it might not be the same level if something happens to Kirby Joseph, but I think that the work that Brandon Joseph did really was impressive in training camp. And so I'm curious to see if anything lingers with Kirby Joseph. I'm not really thinking it's serious at the moment, but we'll see as the week progresses. But I'm happy with the depth that this football team has at a lot of spots. Jameson Williams, you saw that play. I think now there's a lot of more doctors locally that are doing the analysis, and they actually showed the play in which Jamo got his ankle rolled up just a little bit. I think with a little bit of rest, he'll be out there. No doubt about it. But I'm curious real fast. I want to get your opinion because to me, we talked about Jamo. Clearly the point of the game was the highlight was Jamo exploding. Do you guys care that he's rolling up at 6 Mile? Now, I don't care. It's his business. He can roll up and do whatever he wants after the game. I'm not really a fan of the pose that he chose, but to me, and it's just my opinion, not judging the man, he can do whatever he wants. If you ball out, you can go to Legends, you can go to Players, you can go to 6 Mile, 7 Mile, you can go wherever you want. But to me, I always am of the opinion that nothing really great happens after midnight outside of your bedroom. So to me, if you're Jameson Williams, you just have a great ball game. You just go home, enjoy it with the fellas. You can bring everything you want. You can bring all the restaurant chefs to your place. So to me, I just think that, he's a young guy still learning his ways. I don't think it's risky, but to me, you open yourself up for just a little bit of trouble if you're hanging out past midnight and you're a rich NFL player. It just is the case. And you saw what happened to Tyreek Hill. Look, you never wish ill on anyone, but I'm of the opinion you be preventative in your life. And if you're a rich ball player, hanging out past midnight is just a little bit risky. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Am I just getting old? But I know people were talking about it. I just think that, you celebrate, you go home with the fellas, you crack a beer and you hang out at home. You can create, you can create the environment of your life with all the money you got. You can create the fantasy land in your crib.
Doc, as a Hall of Fame coach, as a wise man, as the name goes, Mike Tomlin once said, "We do not care. If you're putting up 125 yards and a touchdown, how old is he? 22, 23 years old?
Yep.
The last thing I'm doing after that Sunday night game, after having the game of my life, after hearing all the allegations about how I'm a bust, I can't do whatever I want, is going to bed. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. Going directly home. If Jameson, I don't know. He's a young dude. I understand what you're saying, Doc. That's a professional route to take. But I just think people handle themselves differently. I think people come up in different situations where it's just they know what they can handle. If you were to throw a player like Joe Burrow out on 6 Mile, you'd be like, all right, Joe, what are we doing here? And Jameson Williams' father even come out. I think it was either Eric Woodyard or Corey Woods. I shouldn't get those two mixed up, but it was one of the guys who covered the Lions. And Jameson Williams' father came out and just that's who Jamo is. That's what Jamo grew up doing. That's what Jamo's comfortable in. So as long as he's comfortable in the city, I don't think if you were to be in the city and touch Jamo, you're a dead man walking. I don't think anybody's going to fuck with Jamo. I understand San Francisco happened with Ricky Pearsall, but San Francisco's a fucking shit show right now.
That's also in my mind. What happened to the San Francisco 49er rolling out with a Rolex?
I get that stuff happens, but that could happen at 3 p.m., 3 a.m. on the way to the stadium like Tyreek Hill. So Jamo, just in my opinion, just keep being you. It's working.
I'll say this: everyone has a different. I say everyone has a different way of celebrating wins and doing different things. All that, Aleem McNeil was like, "Hey, I was laying in bed watching film and watching Reba with my girlfriend until 4 a.m." Jamo went out and just had fun with the boys. Now I'll say this: as long as you're not doing anything stupid and being safe, all right, yeah, go ahead, go have fun, go to the club, go wherever you want and have fun. And as long as you're still performing the next week, it doesn't bother me personally. I'm sure all around the league there was guys that went out and partied, had a little bit of fun after week 1, but yeah, it doesn't. Hey, Doc, I love you. It doesn't bother Boone though.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I think Corey was the one that put it out that in at least his experience, these athletes are essentially, for the most part, untouchable. These guys, they know, that's Jameson freaking Williams. We need the guy. He's not going to get messed with. And it is partially his age. He's out there. Maybe you won't see You know, you're not going to see some of the older guys hanging out, but that's Jameson. That's kind of what he's always been. And obviously it works and he's comfortable. So I get it, Doc. I get your perspective. You're looking out for the guy, but it's what works for him. And hey, he's been good so far. He hasn't had no issues. So
no issues. And what a game he had. And look, man, that was the highlight. The highlight of the week was seeing the deep ball to Jamo, seeing him involved in the offense. I just thought it was special. And look, for those that said, oh, look now for all the people that critique Jamo, he said it. He said, I had to mature. And so the people that were criticizing him were saying, hey, if he doesn't mature, there's something going on. And he said it. He looked at it, and he obviously was being talked with, and people spoke to him and said, hey, you got to mature. You got to take this more seriously. And he did. And now when you have the work ethic combined with the natural talent, this is what everybody wanted to see. So I don't blame the people that critiqued it. I think that it was a natural concern because he was a little bit immature. Now he's maturing. And now that you're seeing the fruits of the labor that he's done, putting it all together off the field, oh my goodness, man. This is why I took him in 2 fantasy leagues. I started Jameson Williams, and I'm very happy after week 1. I hope he continues it because he's very talented and he set very high goals for himself, and he deserves to have all the success, to have the game ball given to him from Jared Goff, to have his first game ball given by Dan Campbell. You saw the natural excitement, and it was great to see. He deserved it. And I just think that now when you have the opportunity to have that much talent, it would be a shame if you didn't put in the work. And now he is. And this is great. And I just think that more of the same. You take the top off of that defense, and you see what team you see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to offer in terms of their secondary, and you test them out early.
Yeah, I do want to throw. I'm known, and a lot of people call me the Slappy because I have the Booner path and all of that. We know that, and you've known me for a while. The one thing I want to ask you though is I do want to just figure out what you thought, like the negatives, and obviously there was some negatives because it wasn't a blowout win. You had to go to overtime. You were down 20-17. What are the negatives that you saw coming out of Sunday, and more so just for the Lions? Like, hey, this is what they have to improve if they want us to continue to be a Super Bowl contender here. Because we did our power rankings. I'll say this: the guys all had, I think, the Lions at 3. I originally at the start of the season had the Lions at 1. I did not move them out just because they still won versus the top 10 teams. I think the Rams are top 10, 11. And they were able to pull it out even with as bad as they played. I thought they still have the best roster in football. They're able to go out and pull out that win, and I think it only is up from here. What are some negatives that they need to work on kind of to stay in that top 3?
Yeah, they have to. Clearly, the offense has to get better. The passing offense has to get in rhythm. And real fast, just to divert, just remembering, I don't know if you guys are closer now. Did you guys go and hang out in Windsor when you were 19? Me and the fellas went out regularly to Windsor when we were young. And I always remember it was typically fun until 1 a.m. After that, it got rowdy. The young cats over there would fight each other, and it just got aggressive. So I remember that. And then when I turned 21, I was a regular in Pontiac. So I went out. So I went to Michigan State when I was 18 to 22. So I understand the nightlife scene. It just always felt like a lot of, weird things would happen. And so those memories are seared in my brain. So I'm also talking from experience, knowing that wild ass shit would happen. I just don't want nothing to happen to a Detroit Lion. So you can call me the king of AARP. You can call me whatever you want, but it's all coming from making sure that the Detroit Lions have every possible scenario to win this Super Bowl, because I'm invested. I'm bought in. I think it's coming. And you can almost feel it. And so that's why you look at it through this lens. That offense wasn't good enough. On third down, too many 3-and-outs. The connection with Goff and St. Brown wasn't there. It wasn't one of Amon-Ra's best games, but clearly the Rams understood the assignment of trying to take him away. So I thought that the most negative was regarding the offense. So clearly, though, once they recognized the passing game wasn't as crisp as it needed to be outside of Jamo, they ran the football. And so that's why a football team is built with a run game and a passing game. And with David Montgomery being the guy that got the hot hand in overtime, I just thought it was beautiful to see. Old school football, you just go and handle business. And real fast, I guess I have to bring it up for those of you that were of the opinion that Matthew Stafford was this all-world quarterback. Didn't he do exactly what everybody thought he was going to do? A key drive, he throws an interception. That's costly. in a game. And that's what he was doing in Detroit in critical moments at a very high rate. Now, remember, he had a football in the NFC Championship game that was so terribly thrown that, Lucas could have had it. Booner could have had it. I could have had it. And Tart dropped it. So there's a little bit of luck involved for all those people that say, oh, my God, Stafford went on to win. Look, in Detroit, you have to know the team that you have. If your defense is not all world, then as a quarterback, you have to kind of be a little bit more careful with the football. And Matthew Stafford, turnover machine, and that's what he did. In a critical moment, he turned the ball over to Kirby Joseph, and our guy got the last laugh. So that was great to see. And I thought that, Matthew Stafford played okay, but at the same token, when the time was right to pressure him, man, did the defensive line come through. But, man, guys, think about this. This is the greatest time to smile. The Lions played a C-plus game out there in front of the world. 22 million people plus saw the Lions play their C-plus game. Not even their best game, and they came out with the victory in overtime. That's a new era. That makes a lot of people smile. That makes you cheers and crack open beers and write even more stories and talk about this football team. It was great that they played not their best football, and they came out with the victory. And look, they're going to get better. It's going to get rolling. Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the offense, Gibbs getting more involved too, combined with the reliable David Montgomery. Look, guys, maybe I called the blowout last week. Why not call for another one this week? 35-20, Detroit Lions.
Whoa.
Why not? Just keep up. 35-20. They're going to break through. And look, the other aspect that now is sometimes the media asks the question too much, but it is a thing. The crowd at Ford Field is legitimately so loud, so disruptive that you can't hear yourself think. And I just think that now people are noticing the added element of the crazy fans that are in the stands cheering and supporting their team is going to be disruptive. And that's why I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a nightmare of a performance. And clearly he showed out week 1, but it was against the Commanders. Everybody shows out against them. They suck. So now you're coming into a situation in which Terrion Arnold with more experience, having his first game under his belt, Carlton Davis wanting to show out that, hey, you guys traded me. I just think that this is going to be another football game where the Detroit Lions really play. I think they execute a lot better offensively, and the defense will be there.
Yeah, Doc, we can break bread over the Matthew Stafford red zone interceptions. Those veneers that he put on looking like donkey out of Shrek. Kirby kicked him out the swamp. Kirby played a great game. My defensive MVP last week went to Alex Anzalone. He was playing out of his mind. What do you think, compared to this performance, what do you expect? Do you think Alex Anzalone can keep putting up 13 tackles, 3 of them for tackle for losses? But especially against Tampa Bay, what do you expect to see out of Alex Anzalone again this week?
Yeah, leadership. I thought that he set the tone right from play 1. I just thought it was great to see. I think that when you start to see a veteran that can get better and is good in coverage, I think he's a reliable tackler. I think that clearly he's going to be in the mix to run downhill and get to the running backs to try and limit and force. Look, you saw it. At some points the Lions made the Rams one-dimensional. They just had to throw the ball. And I think that's, again, going to be the game plan this week is to, hey, make sure that no matter what, you're gap responsible, you understand, read your keys, know where you got to be, and when the opportunity presents itself, you make the tackles. And he's getting a little bit better, too, in coverage. So this is just a great thing for the linebackers unit to have a reliable tackler, a veteran leader that will be out there. And it was nice to see Malcolm Rodriguez kind of get a little bit more run than many people expected. Many people thought maybe Jack Campbell would play a little bit more. So now in a situation in which you have this linebackers crew, I'm satisfied with it. But I did, I think you guys saw it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it just yet because I put it out just before you guys came on the air. But I put out an opinion piece, maybe my second one of the season. But I did ask because I was surprised nobody asked before me. But I got a chance to ask Dan Campbell about James Houston, and he gave the old Booner answer that makes you go, oh, doesn't seem like he's a Dan Campbell favorite. And look, Davenport reminded me, hey, he the reason why he came here was for Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn from the time they spent with the Saints. It doesn't seem like James Houston is a Dan Campbell guy anymore. So my opinion piece on Lions on SI is I think the Lions should trade James Houston. I think if you can get a fifth, then you would have gotten some value. If you can get as high as a fourth, I think it's time maybe. And look, it's no fault of James Houston. Look, he's got a certain skill set, and it's a skill set I think another team might covet. But for this situation, Dan Campbell kind of indicated, look, they're going to be debating every week. Do we need another defensive back? Do we need another guy that's better at special teams? James Houston is not top of mind in regards to making the active roster. When he was inactive, that was a big surprise because you figured a football team needs pass rush and you could give Marcus Davenport a little bit of a spell. But people reminded me that were supportive that read the article. They said, look, maybe Josh Pascal takes over that role as a reserve, or you go to Wingo, or you go to a mix and match with Levi if something happens to Davenport. So it just seems like to me, and it's one of those things where sometimes just a change of scenery might do the player better. And I just think that James Houston, the long-term future is starting to look dimmer than it did before. And I just think that if you can get a fifth rounder, hey, you got him in the 6th round. It just didn't, come to fruition. But I understand those that say insurance, but I do think a lot of people were favorable to my opinion, which was good because I thought I was going to get a little bit of pushback. But I think trade James Houston. Am I wrong? Am I crazy?
It's tough. I mean, you look at this, and I've been saying this for months, Doc, that if we'll see how this Davenport experiment goes, because I think that at the trade deadline, the position they should target should be an edge. So if you're going to trade James Houston, I think that further proves that they should be trading for an edge, or at least trying to acquire someone on the edge. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It's tough. If you trade James Houston away, even though he has not looked great, in terms of what I know, it's the NFL. It's not for long. It doesn't matter what you did, but he is technically still one of your best pass rushers. So if you're trading him when his stock is at the lowest, that's also a tough one, Doc, because his stock is like all-time low, and then you trade him.
But no, it's true. But at the same token, you only need one team of the 31 other teams to say, you know what, we saw those 8 sacks. We think we can use them a little bit more. And I do think that position and those 8 sacks really kind of give him a little bit of credit. Yeah, I do think that maybe they would showcase him and play him a little bit more. But we're talking maybe at the deadline, maybe there's an opportunity to get him out there a little bit more. But if Davenport stays healthy, I disagree. I think that Davenport, with his violent bull rush, is only going to get better. And I just think that, my goodness, you just saw a sample of what Marcus Davenport can do. I'm high on him. I like what he can bring to the table. Yeah, the key is going to be health. But at the same token, if Davenport goes down, I think they trust other guys. I think the trust level is in a situation in which the rest of the league would understand it's just not a fit. And I think that there's an opportunity maybe if he does play a little bit and showcase a little bit of that his time in Detroit might be done by the trade deadline. We'll see. But I'm curious because everyone read into it when Dan answered. He said, all I said was, what does James Houston have to do in practice to be a regular? And Dan Campbell said, I can't give you a clear answer. That, there's a lot of debate that has to go on in between other guys. And so that means James Houston has to do a lot of work to kind of overcome that. And he's basically one of the last decisions that gets out there.
Doc, I'll ask you this because, at least, when you look at the wide receiver core and how they utilized those guys last week, you look at Amon-Ra, we expect him to bounce back. Jameson Williams is going to have a pretty good performance. I don't know about 100+ yards. That'd be awesome. Sam Laporta, same thing. Jahmyr Gibbs being utilized. They didn't really use Khalif Raymond. Expect them to as well. We know Ben Johnson spreads the ball around. The Tim Patrick stuff, him and Allen Robinson kind of battling. When do you think they make a decision on when to call one of those guys up? What do you think that timeline looks like? And if so, how do you think they utilize a guy like Tim Patrick when he does get here?
Yeah, I think it's this week. I think
okay.
Yeah, I think it's this week. Why? I think that does it really take that long to master this offense where you get a couple plays targeted your way? I think you use them as potentially on 3rd down. I think you get him into some routes where what they intended for Donovan Peoples-Jones, where you go up and get the football, high point the ball, maybe 3rd and 6. You need a play. Clearly, he's got sure hand. People raved about it. I watched this film. I think he can be utilized in the red zone as another target. I think another big-bodied receiver. So to me, I think that if it's not this week, then for sure next week. I think I would say, okay, maybe let's just say this. I think that Tim Patrick is in the lead. I tried, guys. Dan Campbell, and I joked with Christian right after I said Dan was prepared for that, like no doubt. He had his right away. Oh, it's a competition between all three. Because I didn't say this week to Dan. I said to Dan, I tried to be a little bit more coy. I said, is Tim Patrick on a path sooner rather than later? And right away, I tried, guys. But he said that there's competition, and we'll see where it goes. But I think that, to me, and maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones has the edge in terms of knowledge, but I just think in terms of talent and what someone could do right away, I think Tim Patrick could come right up this week and be a red zone target, get a couple plays on third down, help move the chains. And look, he is tall. He's a tall receiver, and I think he can definitely be somebody that can help this offense. But man, I'm excited. To me, the breakout player this week, Sam Laporta. I think that first game was an aberration. I think that, look, St. Brown and J-Mo will get some attention. Look for St. Brown to have Sam Laporta to have 8 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
This is Laporta's welcome to 2024 game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think he scores, Doc. I'm with you.
Hey, Doc, something that happened this week, the Lions signed Greg Joseph to the practice squad. Does that mean anything with Jake Bates? What are you hearing kind of now in Allen Park? The conversations like around the room in the meetings there. Like, what are you hearing about the Greg Joseph thing? Was that just like precautionary when it comes to in case Jake Bates like is an emergency situation, or is Jake Bates fully the guy, or is that like a let's say a competition behind it?
You said it. Jake Bates is the man. He's the man. And I think that he got a pressure kick that got the game tied up. So that was great to see. Brett Holmes said it. If you pay attention to his presser, he said they were going to sign a veteran to the practice squad. They want competition every week. And just in case something happens to Jake Bates, you have somebody that kicked in the division and somebody that has some experience. So you always want to have, I think, a kicker on the practice squad just to kind of bounce ideas off of, to see what he can do at different times as well. Someone that Jake Bates can bounce ideas off of. And so I think it's a great signing. I like what he did with the Vikings. It stunk that he lost his job with the Packers to a rookie, but in the end, another opportunity here in Detroit. Jake Bates is not going to lose his job anytime soon. He'd have to miss several kicks in a row. That leg is just legit, and he's a down-to-earth person. I think he's got the right mindset too. Faith-based individual that has the confidence that, hey, if I miss a kick, I go on to the next one. And I'm just curious to see what the distance is that Dan will try. So to me, my hope is, you get out to like a 21-0 lead and you got the ball, at the 50 and you let Jake have at it, and just to see if he can make a 60-yarder in front of the home fans, because that'll be a momentum builder for any time if he can make a 60-yarder. He's a good guy, and you root for guys like that. And I just think that Jake Bates is somebody that if he gets the accuracy down, there's a potential. It's too early, but you're in the neighborhood of Justin Tucker here with somebody that can be proficient, be here for a long time.
Kind of switching back to Sunday's game, Doc. Outside of Mike Evans, outside of Chris Godwin, it could even be defensively, especially because no Antoine Winfield, it looks like. Is there a player that really sticks out to you for Tampa Bay and be like, yeah, this guy's going to cause problems for Detroit and the Lions potentially?
Yeah, I like their offensive line. I think Wirfs is going to be somebody that's going to be out there to protect Baker Mayfield, and I just think Baker Mayfield's the guy you pay attention to, because, man, when you saw what he was able to do, I tried today as well, and it was weird because he answered so fast that maybe he didn't hear my question or presumed I was asking a question to draw a headline. But I asked Carlton Davis, based on what you saw from Baker last year, what led to his resurgence, and he just kind of, froze or just kind of said, well, he's always been a good player. And he just kind of quickly said it and moved on. So he didn't kind of give me any more insight. But I mean, I already know. I've watched the film. I just wanted to see it from somebody that actually competed against him. But Baker Mayfield's more mobile, a little bit more sharp. You saw in the game in the postseason that he's got a nice command of that offense. I think that he's in a situation in which he matured. He's a little bit more comfortable, and he's a player that can extend plays. Also somebody that if you don't maintain your edges can go out there and contain. You're going to find out that he'll run for yards and he'll cause some damage. So if you don't play defense at the level in which you can, Baker Mayfield will cause damage. He'll find Godwin. He'll find Mike Evans. And so to me, the two players that I'm just peeking at and making sure, well, clearly Mike Evans, but I want to see how the Lions continue to attack Baker Mayfield, where the angles of pressure come from, making sure that you make it difficult for Baker Mayfield, because if you give him time, if you're not on your, best game in terms of pass rush, he'll stand there and he'll find his receivers. He'll have a good game. If you drop over 30 points in week 1, when offenses are typically struggling, you got something there, and he's got some weapons. So I'm definitely curious to see how Baker Mayfield attacks this game. And I think that he's definitely continuing to showcase that, the Buccaneers giving him the chance. He proved that their trust in him will be rewarded.
Doc, you wrote an article kind of about what Cooper Kupp said. It was it was everywhere. And he called Terrion Arnold one of them ones. And he had the 2 PIs, the PI calls, which, weren't great, but overall had a pretty good debut from the Lions rookie corner. What'd you make of his first game, his debut, and where do you think he's trending, and what do you expect out of him this game against another pretty good wide receiver core? Because he's being tested, Doc. He's being tested.
Yeah, look, he just looks like a natural. He looks like a person that can play the defensive back position, and that's good to see. He was fluid. You look at the film, and you're just like, you're excited to watch, and you're excited to see his footwork. You're excited to see the physicality in which he plays the game. I thought one of the 2 PI calls he got was a little bit bogus. Carlton Davis told me directly he thought that both of them were bogus. So that's cool to see. But look, Terrion's the truth. And I think that he's a natural. And I've been on, and it's a blessing, I've been on everybody in Detroit, everybody in the chat, even the clowns that are making fun of me. Everybody needs to take a minute, go to Twitter, tag Nick Saban, and thank him for helping build your roster. He helped Michigan State turn it around when I was there. I got to see him build up Michigan State, and then Michigan State, for whatever dumb-ass fucking reason, didn't pay the man. They didn't recognize that you had a legend in your grasp. Nick Saban was at Michigan State when I was there. He had graduate assistants like Brian Daboll. He built something special. And even Williams was able to defeat Florida in a bowl game with Nick Saban's guys. And maybe he would have shuffled with the NFL and did all that. But imagine if Nick Saban would have stayed at Michigan State. It bothers me that it never came to fruition. But Nick Saban, defensive genius, and he taught Terrion Arnold the exact ins and outs of professional football. And Terrion's a pro. And he's going to use the trainings that he's taught from a defensive guru like Nick Saban to just handle it. It's a natural fit. Aaron Glenn, Nick Saban, similar style. They're not messing around. You mess up, you're going to get an earful. And Terrion wants to be coached hard. That's the best mindset that you can have, is that he's not up all like maybe the former number 3 pick that you had, all up in his journal, all up in his feelings all the time, maybe not capable of handling all the pressure at that moment in his life. This guy can handle it. This guy's the truth. He's got the charisma. He's got the game, the fluidity. He was stride for stride quite a bit with Cooper. And why did Cooper Kupp say that? Because of the fact that Terrion was right there in his grill all the time. There was never a time where he was clearly beaten to the point of a disaster. Yeah, there were some plays made against him. That's going to happen. But he bounced back, and he's the truth. I think that when you look at a player of that caliber, you get excited, because if that's where he started game 1, now game 2, the competition level gets better. It's only going to help Terrion Arnold, and everybody's seeing it. And it's just a nice addition for this defense. I'm excited to watch more film of him, excited to see what he brings to the table. And look, all I can say, long story short, he ain't Jeff Okudah, so life is good.
Hey, I love that quote, Doc.
You're right there, Doc. You're right there.
Hey, last question that I have here, Doc. One thing I talked about yesterday was the Jared Goff thing, and I went and looked at the stats and kind of presented them a little bit to the show here. Probably would have been a bottom 3 game of his 2023 season if you would compare it all to last year. Do you think he has a pretty good bounce back game here? I still think that he has an opportunity to go win MVP. It felt like everyone in the league was a little bit rusty for not playing in the preseason, and you kind of got that sense. How big of a bounce back are you expecting here with Goff? And I know you were in the locker room today with him. Is it positive from him? Does he feel, is QB1 good in there? Is he locked in, Doc?
Well, I got to give you a little insight. Let me tell you what happened. Today, it was a good locker room session. A lot of people talked. So Jared Goff also does a talk on Monday and a talk on he talks on Monday typically with Dan Miller of Fox, and then he talks on the Lions flagship station on Tuesday. So to me, I'm like, okay, you hear Jared Goff, and in terms of a story that you can write, you kind of say, okay, he's kind of, quick with the media. He kind of gives more to those guys than he does to the big group of reporters. So we were all talking to DJ Reader intently. And then if you see in my video that's on the site, you can hear the media say, okay, we're talking to Jared Goff now. And everybody that was talking to DJ Reader didn't leave. And the reason is Goff is professional. He doesn't really give a lot of great quotes. He's insightful, but he's somebody that if sometimes you're, interviewing somebody else, I'm going to go read
Goff
the quote.
Dry. He's dry, Doc.
It's intentional. He's got great personality, but he just wants to blow through it and get through it. And so I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to be, there's other people I can talk about and that are more interesting. So I did not listen to a single word. I wasn't there when he was talking. I was talking to DJ Reader. And to me, I think that clearly what you saw was the Rams brought the pressure. And they said, okay, we know that if we lessen the time that Goff has, it's going to disrupt the timing. And Dan Campbell said it too in his talks, which were that in certain routes that were run at certain times, the depth wasn't exactly right. You can go watch the film and see certain times where the receiver needed to be at 6 yards. He was at like 4 and the timing was off. And so it just wasn't crisp. So I think this week of practice, the point of emphasis is going to be route running, depth, making sure the concepts are locked down. So I expect, look, MVP this year, you're going to get the best out of a lot of people. And I think you got to taper that expectation a little bit because it's no disrespect to Goff, but you're starting to see that, look, Patrick Mahomes is still in this league. You still have a lot of talented football players that are making plays at the quarterback position. So it's going to be uphill climb for big accolades for Goff, but he's going to have a great season and he'll bounce back, no doubt about it. But I just think that the preciseness of Ben Johnson's offense needs everything to go exactly right in the route concepts. And it just, for week 1, it wasn't there, but week 2, I think will be a lot better. And look out, because I'm getting the sense that just based on Amon-Ra's vibe, I can't say what based on he said he's going to talk Thursday, just on his vibe, kind of maneuvering through the locker room today, I think he's pissed. I think that he looked at that stat and 3 catches for 13 yards. I'm looking that if it's not Sam Laporta, 12 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns for St. Paul, because that man's pissed. He wants the football. Let the man cook. And I think Goff is definitely going to feed the beast when it starts to cook.
Love it.
Love
Great.
that.
Hey, Doc, you know what, Doc? Great stuff. We appreciate you. Keep up the great work. Please, guys, go give John some love. Show him some love. Detroit Lions and Sports Illustrated link will be in the description. I was reading earlier. Also, DJ Reader compared Aiden Hutchinson to freaking Max Crosby. So we didn't even get to really ask you about that. That is huge. That is massive.
Yep.
No, go ahead. I want your thoughts on that as well.
I was going to say Aiden Hutchinson, Beast Mode, the video, we got it on Lions on SI. I asked, Aiden Hutchinson directly, and that's the video I used. Also of DJ Reader, I asked Aiden, after one game, why are you a better pass rusher? And I thought his answer was, I thought he was a little bit surprised that maybe I was like that direct after one game. But I asked him the question. He answered it thoughtfully. I thought it was great. And please, like I said, I do think that you guys have helped me be a better reporter, because I'm always thinking, what would the guys talk about? What would they ask? What would they want to know about? And to me, I did want to clear up for those that heard last week when I said the haters get me paid. It's not that they're going to click on my articles. I have already established a fan base, and I'm thank God for them every day. What it means is when people write you're a clown or you're no good or your opinions suck, it only makes me work harder. It makes me say, how do I fight my way through to ask questions? How do I get information that I know the people want? That's what I know. I mean, I've done it for 10 years. And so to me, I feel like now at 45, this is the year where I can say, okay, I'm a Detroit sports reporter. I'm decent enough to get information that will help the readers of Lions on SI and here when I present information to the fellas who respected me and kept me talking, even though I've said some dumbass things. So now that we've talked about football, I know you can't play it, but we need a breakdown of Shannon Sharpe. What the fuck was he doing? How the hell do you have some shit like that come out? That dude was louder than the chick in the video. What was going on? After this, he's going to break it down. Listen, I know it's the playbook that you're rich and famous. He's got enough clout. You don't need a sex tape to get more clout. Do you think I have to ask it because I'm always right to the truth. Yeah. Do you think he let that rip to shut up all the talk of those people who thought that he was into men?
I don't know. Hey, Shay.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no clue.
Antonio Brown has been on his. Jeff will tell you, Antonio Brown has been on his case for of the outfits that he wears, the way he pumps gas. I'm thinking he put that out there to kind of just say, look, I'm into handling business. But in the end, he's getting busy online. But, I mean, you can't be louder than the girl in the video. Just handle business.
Yeah. Michelle wasn't too loud, was she, Doc? Michelle.
Yeah. I love it. One of the places where, I mean, of course, it was 4 minutes. Before I came on here, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to push button. I like it now. You can like shit and nobody sees it. So I like the post. I watched it. I'm like, the person that captioned it was hilarious in my mind. But you can't let that happen in your position. Hey. You're a multimillionaire on ESPN. How in the world is this happening to you? It's unbelievable to have that happen. But to me, I think he did that shit on purpose.
Doc. And Shannon Sharpe is one of my favorite. I watch.
Me too.
All the time. I watch
the podcast. He's a legend.
He is and the guys know because these are my guys. They know who I like. All right, Joe Klatt, Shannon Sharpe, Nick Wright, Colin Cowherd. I have like that little 4 that I watch. I saw it, Doc, and I saw someone on Twitter say that he sounded like Doc Rivers on a treadmill. And that's really what got me. I was like, oh, and I think there's a little bit of it, Doc. I'm with you. I think that shit was intentional. I don't know. Well, if you got to do a tell-all tonight, there's some truth to it, Doc. Like, I'm just saying, he had to do a tell-all, and I'm sure the views are high. I just checked. There's like 200,000 viewing. Yeah. A little bit of PR.
That's what I'm going to do right now. I want to hear his explanation. Ryan Anton heard it too. R-Truth, the wrestler, was clowning around. He's like, I think he'd be having sex. And R-Truth I thought that was fake, but I just, that kind of stuff to me is always intriguing because I didn't think he needed the Kim Kardashian sex tape play thing to get that out there because he was.
You didn't need Ray J.
You didn't need all that. You handle business, but. It was crazy. Too bad you guys can't just break it all down because that shit would be content gold. But listen, guys, thank you guys. I can't wait. Like I said, 35-20, Lions going to win. Please visit Lions on SI. Check out @Detroit Podcast. You may like some things. You may not. But I do think that for free, a valuable read to get you information from inside Allen Park, a daily reporter covering the video. Thank you guys for the time.
Hey, and Doc, I don't think there'll be a tell-all from Doc. I think he's good for now. I don't think Doc's gonna have nothing leak out there with a girl named Michelle. All right, I think Doc's good. He's doing his thing.
At 45, I don't got 4 minutes in me. I got good 60 seconds, man. That's all I got, man. I'm tired, and I'm
not much, but it's honest work, Doc.
Shout out, Doc, man. Go check his stuff.
Oh my God. He's out every time.
Yeah. I knew he was going to bring it up. I knew it. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't think he was, to be honest. That's hilarious.
No, that was right up Doc's alley.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was on brand. And shout out to the Doc again. That was brought to you guys by BetUS.